ready? Okay, so in television, you have relationships with all different kind of people who are going to be making these decisions on who gets cast. So between the director, the producer or showrunner of a TV series, and the studio and the network, how does that work? Who gets the final say?
God. Which often means the showrunner, depending on how powerful that showrunner is or how much the studio and the network trust the showrunner. But I've been fortunate that usually the network, in particular for Breaking Bad and Walking Dead, is AMC, and they've been very much aligned aesthetically with the showrunner. So most of the time we're all on the same page, and if not, we figure it out at the beginning. There are times you really fight for an actor that they don't agree with, but it hasn't been the battle that I have had at other places.
Are cable networks easier, do you think, than the actual networks, ABC, NBC, CBS?
Yes, and the reason is, my experience is that they really put a lot of faith in the showrunner. So once they make the decision, they make fewer pilots. So once they make the decision to make that show, they're going along with the aesthetic, and it's not a committee that's casting it.
So David, you work for the CW a lot, and so does that differ from your experience at the CW, or is that pretty much in line with?
That's pretty much in line. I mean, we have, I would say, we have one showrunner, a director, a writer, about 4 to 5 producers, 15 people on the studio side, 15 people on the network side that all make decisions, casting decisions, and we do, I'm sorry, it doesn't fall inside with what you guys do, because we're more of the general network, I guess.
Yeah.
There's about 45 people altogether that sign off on one role, whether it be a one-man co-star or a
45 people have to sign off on one.
For a co-star. I don't know if they all watch the tapes, but the auditions are emailed.
What happens if there's like a complete split? What happens if not 45 people are ever going to agree? Ever?
We go back to the drawing board a lot because they don't agree. Sometimes you can't have 2 blondes in one scene. They decide they want it to be a man. For any reason, you'll go back and start over again.
And once you guys cast the pilot, you all know what that is, right? Pilot, right? So once you cast the pilot, how long usually before you go to series? Like, what's the time frame between you shoot the pilot and then how long do you have before the series starts?
In cable, it tends to be a little bit longer than in the network because the networks tend to shoot their pilots April, May, March, April, and they will decide, usually picking them up May for the upfronts, but in cable it can be anywhere from 3 months to a year. Yeah.
Roger.
I'm up.
You're up.
Okay.
So I was wondering, because when you did X-Men, you had a bunch of established actors, and then you had a bunch of newcomers, basically. So did you go out to the established people first? Was there a hit list, or did you audition them? And then how did that all happen with X-Men?
With the first X-Men, superheroes weren't quite as hip at that time yet. We had Batman with Michael Keaton and George Clooney and that stuff, but Marvel was inventing the game for their characters. We went to both, actually, but we weren't the draw that a superhero role is now. I think it's become cool to have that. So we went to some of the people that we thought would be perfect, like our Professor X, and Ian McKellen had worked with Bryan Singer, and we met with Terrence Stamp, who looked more like the comic book Magneto, but we decided to go with Ian, and then all of a sudden it started steamrolling, and Anna Paquin came in, and Halle Berry came in, Rebecca Romijn came in, and it all just kind of started getting itself together. And we made X-Men, and we got cool. It got cool to be a superhero or even a supervillain. And so that's a little bit easier now, but it was really searching out. For the Wolverine role, we looked in Australia, the United States, and in the UK, put many, many people on tape, auditioned many people, and then we somebody, and then we lost that person because they were on another movie and that movie went over. So we went back to the drawing board and we found Hugh Jackman, flew him up to Brian, who had already started shooting X-Men, to screen test him. I think you can find the screen test even on the collection of X-Men. And he did a scene with Anna Paquin, and he's still doing Wolverine. He still rocks it, man. He's awesome. And everybody has enjoyed, I think, a little bit of celebrity from being an X-Men. It's part of the process. You just look. You look everywhere. I think all of us have been there, that we've got to find who's the best person for that role, and that's kind of our job. We're the ones that sort through the 10,000 to show the right 5. We listen to the same scene many times, over and over again, but that's our job, and we do, and we can do it. And we do, we've all done it, we've all been there.
And Randy, you've worked on the Avengers, Captain America, Thor, Iron Man, all of them. So you've been involved in so many of them. Have actors read for one movie and then you thought, oh, maybe they would be right for this movie, or how did that happen for you? Because there have been so many that you've worked on.
I think, when you're working on any kind of movie, you're constantly bringing in, if it's Captain America, any guy in their 20s, and you just keep doing them. So it's not necessarily that you pinpoint one for another, but you sort of do always keep in your brain who did really well, who fits all of this image, or, what are their strengths or their weaknesses.
Well, because like on Thor, you tested Tom.
Hiddleston.
Yeah,
Yes.
Thor, right? So, and then what happened to that?
Well, Tom just came in and gave a killer audition, and he was never, we knew physically he wasn't necessarily it, and he's such an unbelievable guy with an unbelievable work ethic, and put on probably 25 pounds of muscle and just nonstop working out, and was still genius, but just wasn't Thor, and it just made sense for him to be Loki. I mean, we didn't really look at anybody else. I can't remember. I mean, it was a while ago, but for the most part, it's just he's so phenomenal that he just filled every requirement we needed.
David, how many people did you see for Aaron? Do you know roughly?
Stephen Amell was the first person that auditioned, and we tested him pretty much the next day.
Really?
And he was the only person we tested, and that never, ever happened. Ever.
Ever.
I mean, we got so lucky, and it took us, 5 weeks to cast the rest of the pilot, but we got lucky with Stephen.
Chris Hemsworth was actually the first person the first day we brought in for Thor, and it just took us a long time of searching to come right back to him.
Yeah.
And then, Sharon, I wanted to ask you, because you did Breaking Bad, and then you went into The Walking Dead, and now you're into Under the Dome. So a lot of times you're doing more than one series at a time. How do you do that?
Well, whoa, shit's happening. Okay. First of all, it's not just me. I have a fabulous business partner, Sherry Thomas, who collaborates with me on everything that we do. And we have 2 associates in our office, Gohar Gazazian and Russell Scott. So we're able to do that. But somehow it kind of overlaps where they're not at the same time. Somehow when we finish our Walking Dead season, maybe there's 2 or 3 episodes that overlap. So we're able to do that. And on Under the Dome, we only did the pilot. Since they're under a dome, they're able to keep a lot of the same people, and they've done a wonderful job casting locally. So it hasn't been a conflict, and I think, for me personally, if it was, I wouldn't be doing it.
Right. Does anybody have any questions? Yeah.
Roger, you talked a little bit about having to recast. Obviously, when you get the cast together, it's who everybody thinks is perfect. But like with Wolverine or with Beast on the X-Men First Class, what happens when an actor drops out suddenly? Do you just go to number 2, or do you go back to the drawing board?
Well, I don't know if anybody really wants to do number 2. There's that whole mindset of it's the second choice. And we actually many times have to just go back to the drawing board and just research. Other people may have become available, other projects have fallen apart, many different things happen. For the most part, we go back and review. We definitely review. Certainly when you're looking for someone like Beast, there's lists. We make lists of actors that we know, and then we see new actors as well. And then you kind of sift through all of that, and then usually the right person gets the right job. It kind of happens.
What is that about? We have a list. You know, you have your 1-2 picks, right? And the first choice drops out, and then hardly ever do you go to that second choice. They make you start all over again.
They do. They do.
You never get to go. You think you have it lined up. You're like, all right, we're really organized. 1, 2, 3. We're going to go.
Never.
One says no, it doesn't work out, and then you just start all over for some reason. I don't know what that phenomenon is.
It's casting.
I'm always impressed in films when they're able to find like young actors that look like young versions of like big stars, like let's say, I don't know, like Tom Cruise as a kid or whatever. I'm wondering if you could talk a little bit about what that process is like and how you start looking for young performers to play stars that we knew as young performers.
Well, I had that in Grown-Ups and Grown-Ups 2, let me tell you. That one was tough, finding younger versions of the star comedians, and then younger versions that could play basketball. We just kept going. It's like, look, they write it, and we got to find it. That's pretty much what it is. Whatever thing they make up, with kids, it's amounts. It's a lot. You look at a lot of children. There are a lot of professional children, and then I like to look for the ones that look more natural, and I think all of us up here kind of do that. You just want the real thing, because the kid, you just tell them, go stand over there and look, and then it's all built in. You don't always get a Dakota Fanning, that kind of caliber of actor. So you just look, you just keep looking, you just keep looking, and you just keep looking. There's the whole country, there's whole countries. We're very international now. We're not limited with the 2 coasts. We're now with the internet, we can get stuff from Australia, where a lot of actors that you don't even know are Australian are on your TV shows, and the UK, where they're very disciplined. So it's a global sort of thing that we have available to us, and you can just keep looking and you'll find it.
On Superman, I had to get pictures of Henry, so I had his mom send me pictures of Henry at like 13, and so then we had those pictures like Henry, and then his progression, and so every time we got a kid that was good, then we would see if they matched up. But then I had to match up Henry, and then Dylan, and then the other kid, so it does get quite complicated.
Are there like generic characteristics in children actors that you look for when you're looking for a child actor, or?
I think with children, you really want a kid that thinks character like a character. A lot of kids will come and be coached by their parents, or they'll do what they've seen on the Disney Channel or whatever that is, and they're not thinking. And I think that's a difference with like when the Fannings were little. If they came in, they'd never be like, "Oh, do you want me to be happy?" They'd say, "Am I happy because my father got back from the war and my uncle?" And they'd give you this whole. You'd end up having a philosophical discussion with a 4-year-old, And I think that's what you need. You need somebody that just is able to dispense belief and play pretend at a really high level.
Hi, this question is for all of you. There are many actors and actresses who would love to network with you guys, and I'm sure you've encountered many of those people. Are there any cardinal do's and don'ts to getting the attention of casting directors?
Don't come up to me in the bathroom. That's a good one. Number 1.
I think let the work speak for itself. I've received a lot of cupcakes and gifts from actors, and it's great, and I'll rip the headshot off and throw it out and eat the cupcake, and I don't want to know who that is, because it's not professional. And I think there are so many opportunities that you have right now. I just made a Vine movie the other day for the first time, and it was so much fun, and I don't know why everyone isn't doing it. I mean, if you're an actor, you can make your own short, you can make a web series, you can do all these great things now, you can do it from your phone. And so that's what I'm looking for. I'm looking for the work, I'm looking for your talent, what makes you unique. I'm not looking for someone to come in and try and be who they think I want them to be, because I don't really know what I'm looking for half the time, honestly. So don't send gifts, don't waste your money, just do good work, and I think you will rise to the top, whether I see you or an agent sees you or you're in a play or what have you. We tend to see good work and respond to that.
And for those of you who are actors here, you should understand that when you send in a tape that's been requested, a lot of actors think, oh, nobody looks at it. We look at everything. We have people tape themselves in their apartments all over the world. We've tracked down people in their hotel rooms in different countries and had them self-tape and give notes on that self-tape. So, sometimes I'll meet an actor and they say, oh, we just didn't think anybody was looking at it. Well, we do, especially if it's requested. And to David's point, you can make your own content now, and we are looking at the internet and the computer all day long, and oftentimes we'll be looking at one actor, and Sherry will sit next to me and go, who's that guy next to him? Let's find him. And we do. So the more you put yourself doing original content, if you don't have access to a top agent or the ability to always get in the casting office, you will get opportunities.
I think it's important for actors to act professional. It's a job, guys. It's a professional thing. You don't just go lollygagging to other jobs. This is a job. Be professional about it. Be proud of what you do, and conduct yourself accordingly. I think that we appreciate.
I also think that sometimes people aren't aware of all the restrictions you have legally in casting certain things. Like, you might think you're not being considered, but if the film is being shot out of the country, you can't get you into Canada. If it's a small role, there's no budget for that. So a lot of times people think they're not being considered, but financially and government-wise, there's often a lot of reasons why we can't consider you for a part. Union things come up all the time as well.
Hello, folks. This is my real voice right here, let you know. Anyways, I like the marvelous work that you all have done with the Marvel superhero and all the other superhero movies so far, especially with the Avengers, Captain America, the first Avenger, and Thor, and Iron Man, all those are just marvelous, marvelous. And I'd like to know, for instance, Captain America, when Bucky was portrayed for the first time, why he was portrayed as just the same age as Cap was, just a friend to him, and not like the sidekick like he always was. I don't know if y'all know why they took a different turn with that for some reason.
That's the way the script was. I don't know what the thinking was behind it, but that was there from page one, the first draft of that script.
That's kind of creative license. It's like making a character interracial when they've always been depicted white. I think it's just an artistic choice.
Oh, yeah. Okay.
Hello, my name is August. I heard what you said about Tom Hiddleston giving this awesome audition, like a killer audition. I was wondering if you had any advices, for when you audition for example, big roles like Wolverine, Thor, all that. What is expected of us? What would you like us to do, or what would you like us actors to do in order to see, oh, this guy is very good, or this guy is not that good,
I think it's just play the character fully fleshed out. Don't play the superhero. Don't just make it as internal as possible. I think, Ken Branagh said the greatest thing about Tom Hiddleston. He said if there was an acting island, Tom would live on it. And then he corrected himself and he said he'd be the king. He just loves it so much and is so well thought out and so planned and has an extensive theater background. So the character for him never just comes from here. It's through every fiber of his being, and his physicality changes, and he does his research. I mean, it's just he spends a lot of time doing the research to flesh things out completely.
Don't play the powers. I audition a lot of mutants. I'm just looking for real people. Okay? How you play the power is a discussion you're going to have with the director after you get the role. Then you figure out if you're going to go this, or that, or that, whatever your power is. Just play the reality. It's just what Randy said. It's just be honest with what is happening with that character in real life. Whether you're going to be green, striped, or polka dot. It doesn't matter. We're looking for the actors. We're looking for the reality in the character. Then the rest is just costume and makeup. Okay.
Hi guys, I'm here. I had a question for all of you. I wanted to ask how you got your start, and if you had cast indies and what that was like as you move forward in your career.
I was a theater nerd, and in high school I snuck into the second half of every Broadway show. Never saw the first half. And that made me fall in love with actors. And, you know, today you can go to some schools and study to be a casting director, but I don't think that was the case when any of us started. And you sort of fall into it. For me, I loved reading. I had a fantastic memory, and I loved working with writers, so that sort of got me into the casting world.
I took a lot of acting classes growing up, but I didn't like to be watched. And then I kept, and then I interned at a talent agency, and one job led to another, and I accidentally stumbled into casting, and thank God I did.
I did an internship with a woman named Mally Finn, who since passed away, and I was very, very lost in college. I really had no idea what I wanted to do, and I was going to a communication school where everyone was very focused. There were going to be actors, directors, writers, what have you, and I was completely lost. And I learned more in my 3 months of my internship, which then led to 6 years of being hired and working for Mally, than I did my entire college career, because I responded to her passion, to her love of the arts, to her love of actors. She had been a theater teacher before. Her husband was in theater as a professor, and I just learned so much from her, and I was lucky enough to have a mentor, and I fell in love with casting and the art of casting, and saw it as an art, as a creative art, not just as a business, through working with Mally, who at the time was the biggest casting director. She had done Titanic and LA Confidential and Terminator 2 and The Matrix and a slew of independent films and short films and student films, and she just loved the process. She loved nurturing artists, and because of that, for me, there was no project that was ever too small or too big to take on. There was no challenge that I didn't think I could face because of that, and luckily enough, I have the lessons she taught me with me every single day, so I was grateful to have her in my life.
And I think, you know, certain people have a cultural fluency or linguistic fluency, and our job is to have acting fluency. You know, our job is to know hundreds of actors, to learn about their different qualities, and then probably all of us would say to fight for the ones we believe in.
Hey, how you doing? This is for all of you. I don't know if you deal with day player auditions so much anymore, if that's more location or casting, but what advice would you give to an actor whose audition might consist of a line, or 2 words, or a word?
I'd love to answer that. I'm sure you would. Well, because in all of our worlds, we cast one-line roles. Some of our shows are done on location, so some of the smaller roles are done on location, but we also shoot a lot in Los Angeles. But I think the thing to remember is your job is to move the story forward. It's not about you. So you should know what's happening before, what's happening after, what you're coming in on, what the style of the show is. But most of the time when someone comes in for 1 or 2 lines, they want to come in and show you their stuff, and it's their time. And my response would be, it's not your time. It's your time to honor the text and move the story along. And if you do that, you're going to build it up, and 1 line becomes 5 lines. And in many television shows, that 1-line secretary comes every week. So it's a really good thing to do.
And all of us, I can speak for all of us up there, but you can't mess up 1 line. Because if you do, it'll pull you right out of the movie. So we all pay attention to every line, every day player, every little thing that we have to cast.
Hello. You mentioned a little bit about when you do searching for characters, or the actors playing character. But I was wondering if you could go into a little bit more detail about what happens when you're looking for that particular character. Like, do you send out to particular agents you know, or all the agents, and then when they submit, you get those thumbnails? Do you just look at them, or do you look at every single person and then decide who you're going to send? If you just go into detail about how you look for the right actor, when you say we're looking for an actor to play this part, what goes into all that?
It really depends. You know, if you're looking at a $160 million movie or some really huge movie, the chances of being a complete unknown that's never done anything is really slim, just from a technical standpoint. The amount of extra time it will take to hit a mark, you know, memorize your lines, understand lighting, all of those things. I mean, it might have only been a couple episodes of the TV show, it would be something, but generally it's a working actor. If not, I mean, I'm working on a movie now, and we needed a 12-year-old boy, and we saw 1,400 boys between the ages of 9 and 14. And some of it was online. You know, we put it out everywhere we possibly could. I mean, if you're looking for if you're looking for hockey players, you put it on every hockey player website you could possibly do. You go through all the main actor channels, but you also try to reach as far and wide for that particular skill or age or type or ethnicity or whatever it is that you need. And now with the internet, it's gotten way easier.
We use a service called Breakdown Services, and what happens is we'll release a breakdown of a script to the agents and managers in the industry, and we'll get about 1,600 submissions per role. And we look through each submission. Each submission is basically a thumbnail picture with a resume and sometimes a demo reel. And it's kind of like a dating service. You're almost like a matchmaker for your producers, and they're saying, I need a guy who plays, mid to late 20s, who's 6'2" and has dark hair. And so I'll kind of go through 1,600 submissions, and it may not just be a physical thing, obviously, but I'm looking for an essence that I'm matching to the character. And if I see that in your picture, or I get a hint of it, then I click on your resume, and I click on your demo reel to get to know you better. And I'm kind of narrowing down the field to about 25 people that I will then pre-read for them, and then bring them about 7 to 10 people at most to choose from for that one role. So I feel like a bit of a matchmaker in a way.
And the biggest things if you're self-taping is make sure that go back and check that tape. I can't tell you how many times we have tape where like somebody's backlit themselves and you see nothing, or their sound isn't working, and you try your best to go back and say you can do it again, but if the volume you're looking at, you can't always do that. So you'd be surprised. Really check your tape before you send it in or put it online.
Yeah, just to add to that, I actually always wondered, sailing too quick. I always wondered how often you see somebody on the street and you're like, I want that person. Because I feel like I watch all of these true Hollywood stories. And like, I was grocery shopping. Like, how often does that actually happen?
Not often. We see faces. Look, we've all been to New York. There's some great character faces in New York, and just coming down on the train here from LA, there were some great faces in Union Square, and Union Station. We look, but that's so rare. The Lana Turner story is a great story.
I think it happens a lot more in print. That happens a lot in print.
There's a big process to get somebody cast, and I think because, like I was saying before, there's so many people signing off, it's very rare you'll pull someone literally off the street and make them a star. It just doesn't happen. I could be working for a studio and network and find someone I love, and I send it to them, and they don't get it, or they don't think they have enough credits, and they don't want to take a risk on that. Because you have to remember, ultimately, it is a business, and they're protecting their investment, so they either are always trying to get the most famous person, or someone who they know is not going to totally fuck up, their production. I think we're all adults.
But you're right about the print thing, because a lot of times they'll say, oh, we just saw them on the street, or we just found them, and it's like, chances are one of us was there first. Right. I mean, they say that, but it's like, it makes a better story than actually we saw 5,000 people and that person got the job. Right. So they do say it a lot more than it actually happens. They like to make that up.
And it happens more often if it's something of a particular skill. Like I did a movie called In the Valley of Ella, and they wanted real military vets. And one of the guys that got the lead, who's now the lead in J.J. Abrams' new series, was one of our assistants' neighbor's nephew. And we just needed some more help, and he was a two-term vet of the Iraq War, and he just came in to kind of help us with some information. And we're like, oh, he's really cute. He should read for this. And he went through an entire process and ended up getting one of the leads, and it was never, like acting hadn't been on his radar. He was so far removed from it. He lived in Chino. Like it wasn't his thing, and then it somehow just found him.
Hi guys, I'm Mike Romo. I'm very grateful to be a working actor, and I write about your movies a lot on the website. And what I've been noticing is, I think it's sour grapes, but a lot of actors are like, if you want a job in Hollywood, you need an Australian or British passport. And it's like, I think it's unfair, and you see the pressures of the international market. Linda Oak's book, Sleepless in Hollywood, is like pretty much keeping me sleepless in Hollywood. But I was curious, the pressures of the international aspect of film, mostly in film right now, but I would assume in TV. And I'm curious what it is about the British and the Australian actors that you're seeing that maybe you're not finding in LA, and what we can do to improve who are, I mean, I'm classically trained, blah, 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 but there's something about the UK and the Australian actors right now, and they're really killing it right now. I'm so curious what you guys are seeing.
To be honest, I don't think it has anything to do with their nationality. I think it has to do with the work ethic. And I can't say this across the board, but I'll just give you an example, like a breakdown. Basically, there's one movie we did. We were seeing 20 people that day. The director was flying in for one day, and say we saw 20. The 5 Brits came and prepared 50 different ways to do it, ready to go off book. 5 Australians, the same thing. 10 Americans, 3 had car trouble, 2 had the flu, 1 didn't have time with the material, and then 3 did really well. It's you know, if you're going to move that far away from your family and friends in your life, your chances of taking it seriously are greater. Plus, there's not as much opportunity. So I feel like here, people, if you could walk and talk, there's a chance of getting a guest star on, you know, some small cable channel show, and then you think you've made it and just get lazy. And those guys don't get lazy. And girls don't get as lazy as a lot of the American actors tend to do, because they feel like there's always work to be had.
Ditto. But I think it's the training and taking it seriously and no excuses. You know, I was casting a pilot and saw an actress in a Broadway show. She had, 4 shows a weekend, and I was just in town for a day and got word to her that I wanted her to come in and go on tape. There was no excuse that I have 4 more shows or I just got the material. She came in, she read it. I switched the role on her because I thought she was more like the lead role. She was flying up to Canada to shoot, and she just did it in her hotel room the next day. And when I said, "Who's going to read with you?" she said, "I'll just call him for room service." So there was no chance for an excuse, and that is why I think they're succeeding.
Hello, my name is Hire. I'm also a working actor. I had a question for you guys in regards to casting director workshops. How do you feel about that? A lot of people up echelon of SAG-AFTRA kind of like pushes against that, saying for actors to be paying money to be seen, there's no guarantee that you guys will call them in. So they kind of, you know, say nay against that. How do you guys feel about workshops? And do you actually bring actors in there? Have you done some of your associates workshops?
I wish that people didn't have to pay for them, but the only thing I can say about it from a feature standpoint is when you're doing a movie, you're looking specifically for what's in that movie. So if your headshot just came across my desk and all I was doing was 8-year-old brownies, you know, there's not a role in it for you. So the timing is off and that doesn't happen. I don't like to do them, they make me feel bad, but other people in my office did, and we always had a rule that anybody was good, they had to bring back their resume. And they have their resume, and then when all those roles come up, it's almost like a first audition for us. We go through all of those pictures first, and if they're right for any of the smaller parts, that's who we bring in first. You know, so it's in our office, it's utilized. That was the rule. Like if you were going to use them and use the name of my company, you had to make do on your promise. So we just considered it a pre-read, basically.
It's a very tough question. I think it's complicated. I understand that actors don't have access to casting offices, so it's their way to show their work. But every workshop says it's not a guarantee or a promise of work, and I don't believe an actor should pay for an audition. That's why we do generals and meet people all the time. That said, you know, the associates in my office do them, and I think if you take a workshop because you want to learn something and believe you will be taught by that person, then there's value. Do they use the pictures to bring them in for roles? Yes, especially on, you know, when we're doing a series that shoots in Los Angeles and we have to cast 24 actors a week. It's a good place to look for it. But I think if you go into the workshop so that you can get a job, then you're going in with the wrong instinct. You should go in to have another opportunity to work. And hopefully that casting director will teach you something, not just say very good, but to give you notes on how to improve that. And if they're teaching, then I think it's legitimate.
Hi, JJ, another working actor. I have a question.
What's your name?
JJ? Letter J, sorry. When you're pulling for co-stars for the smaller roles, are you guys going out to specific agents? Are you looking at the blind submissions, which I know are a ridiculous pile,
you're given a set of stipulations in terms of type and age range, so that helps you. In our office, we look at every single breakdown submission, and we oftentimes will divvy them up. Gohar will look at 2 roles, Sherry will look at 2 roles. I always get the old people. And sometimes it's the most fun for us. The 3 of us or 4 of us will sit together in front of the computer because somebody knows somebody from somewhere, etc. But I think you're looking for a look first, based on what it is you're looking for. And I do look at theater training, and we're not looking for people who have worked a lot to do a co-star role all the time. People have to start somewhere. So it's really also about having that, I think, David, a good picture on breakdown that looks like you, and us being able to click that button and look at a reel quickly, because it moves so quickly. And if you're thinking about, ooh, I want to bring that person, and they look interesting, and there's nothing there, you might move on to the next person.
And it's the same between TV and film. It's the same process. It's just at a different speed. Hers is a little faster than the features that Randy and I do. We have a little bit more time to, get into it, and she's got to get it out much quicker.
But that's why you can't look at each time. I think Laura said this, or that just because you don't get in on it, it's cumulative. If we only have 8 days of prep for an episode and there's 24 characters, we're looking at the 5 years that we've been working, or the 10 or the 20, and accumulating that knowledge and keeping records. In our office we have black books, and we take notes on every actor that comes in, even for the one-line roles. So we go back through our black books because somebody did a really good job 4 years ago on their audition for Lie to Me, and we write remember. So it's the accumulation of doing good work for actors.
They always say you're never auditioning for the role at hand. It's always for something else in the future. I think you're always... I guess that's just it. I don't really have anything else to say about that. I lost my train of thought.
Hi, my name is Morgan, and that was actually a perfect segue because I heard this, this is for Randy, I heard this Hollywood lore story that you once saw Chris Hemsworth in something, and you specifically remembered him and specifically brought him in for Thor, and I just wanted to know if that was true or not.
Well, it's not really lore. Chris, I accidentally was his first audition in America. We were just desperate to find an actor for something else, and his manager had called me and said, I just signed this guy, and he came right from the airport. But it was just, we read him cumulatively for basically everything, and he's 6'5" and strappingly handsome and blonde. If you'd ever met him, you could kind of be remiss in not thinking of him for Thor. It's not that it was any genius move on my part. It was just
Just walk in and kind of go, yeah.
But when some producers don't get it, I did a movie about people, it was the most ridiculous horror movie about people just exploding from the inside out. And Chris came in to read before Thor, and we were like, oh, we found him, this guy's a movie star before he's a movie star, he hadn't done anything yet, and the producers did not get him, and we were just scratching our heads. It's so frustrating, because on our end, we see something in someone and we fight for them, and then, and we knew there was that quality about him, but I'm sure you guys have had people that you've fallen for and your producers don't get them, and then they go and they book something big, and
we missed out.
And there's people you just kind of say keep an eye on. You see them in the beginning, they've got something special, they're not there yet, and you just keep trying and keep trying and keep trying, and usually something happens. Even with Chris on Thor, in between the first audition and the last, Star Trek had come out, and he's an unbelievably kind, gracious, lovely, lovely man. And it's interesting, for everything he had going on, I don't know how else to phrase this, but he just didn't quite have the strut. And then something about, I don't know what happened personally or just having more experience, all of a sudden his skin fit. I don't know how to say it any better than that. All of a sudden he carried himself like the movie star he was meant to be. And it just took a little while of him, finding his feet. The whole process is terrifying. There's a lot placed upon you, and there's so much insecurity. I'm not projecting this onto him, I'm just saying as a whole. There's a lot to overcome just to get to where you can be.
I love a good success story. So what are some ones that you fought for because you really knew it was the right choice, and it turned out to be the right choice?
Jennifer Lopez for Selena. I had to fight for that one. She had to audition. She had to screen test with 5 other girls. We did an open call in Union Station in LA with 10,000 people. 5,000 in Chicago, 5,000 in Houston, 5,000 in Miami, because they wanted to build up a big Selena search. When Greg Nava came to me and said, I want to do Selena, I said, well, it's Jennifer Lopez. She can sing, she can dance, and she can act. He goes, well, I don't know, we have to keep going. And it was an unknown quantity, and there's no Latina actresses out there for any purposes that they could use. Salma Hayek was accented, Selena was American. So we went through that process. Sometimes it's right in front of you. It's like Chris Hemsworth or Chris Pine, they just gotta grow into their skin. But she wasn't what Jennifer is now. I mean, Jennifer has grown from that tremendously. And then you have Hugh Jackman sit in front of you, you've never met him before, and go, Jesus, you're such a star. It's just right there. And everybody's agreed, except the director, who's kind of like, I don't know. There's always an I don't know. And then it just happens from there.
I feel like we do that almost every week, fighting for someone, but so none of it's ever that easy. We fought for Aaron Paul in Breaking Bad. There were voices who had said he can't act. We don't understand, so thank God for those 2 Emmys. But I feel like it's happened on every show. And, you know, actors don't always come in an audition well. Norman Reedus bombed his audition for The Walking Dead. And luckily, we had a producer, Gail Ann Hurd, and a director, producer, Frank Darabont, who saw like into his soul and didn't care because they felt something. And that was a guest star role. And he's probably the most popular character worldwide on the show right now. So, you know, that wasn't a fight for us because they saw it as well, but, you know, in a different scenario with different producers and directors, you do have to fight. I mean, just imagine trying to tell a network that you really want the dad from Malcolm in the Middle to play someone who's going to go from Goodbye, Mr. Chips to Scarface. So you fight.
I think it happens every day. Like one of my big ones was Channing Tatum and Coach Carter, of which he had maybe 10 lines, and I think he came in 7 times. And it was just a never-ending battle. And finally he got it, and that, you know, helped him out. But he deserved that one.
I would say it was most of the cast of Gossip Girl was surprisingly, it was a huge fight to get them cast. Blake Lively, the network felt like she was too blonde and didn't read like an upper East Side girl. So we did a screen test with her, and her hair was too curly. So we screen tested her with her hair straight. And then they couldn't cast Leighton because Leighton was blonde. So we had to do a screen test with her hair dark. And it had nothing to do with her acting ability. It was literally about a look, and it was one of those things where we felt so strongly about both of those girls that they both had talent and potential and an it factor in abundance that I think we could have all saved ourselves some time and looked past those screen tests. But again, that was a situation of casting by committee, and you're working with a lot of not necessarily creative people making a creative decision. So we had to go through the process, and ultimately, you know, I think it worked out in everyone's favor.
Hi, I have a quick question. I know you get hundreds of submissions per role all the time.
Can you stand up, please?
Oh, yeah, you get hundreds of submissions per role all the time from all these different agencies. What chance does an actor who doesn't have any representation have against any of these agencies submitted, talent agents submitting these actors, since it's so hard to find representation in this town without an industry referral? How is an unrepresented actor going to make it in the industry?
I think not having representation, we're still probably going to get them take a look at that picture, but I think the reps are going to get looked at first because we have a network of people that we work with, and they recommend to us, or we don't like their taste, and we know what to look for, what not to look for. I try not to put that boundary in my head. I don't think anybody here really does it. Just picture. You just got to get that picture in there.
And sometimes it's the first time you get in a room, if you do a good job, you don't know where that's going to lead later on. And if whether it comes through a blind submission or not, it's just getting in the room and doing well.
And just to
Think about doing a play, because you know, a lot of us go to the theater, and in the theater, so many people don't have representation, and that's where you can get your start.
I'm just going to make a note about pictures because it's important to me that your picture is not a glamour shot. It's not your school photo. It's something that really looks like you. And I always encourage people to have their friends take their pictures if you don't have enough money or anything. It's really expensive to get a picture out in LA. Just something that really captures your personality. Something that is uniquely you, that will just, you can get a sense of yourself from it. I don't want to see you on your best day. I just want to see you.
Hi, I just had a quick question. With the success of shows like Game of Thrones with a large cast such as that, you know, most people haven't seen before, do you think there's more of an acceptance for younger, fresher faces instead of just stacking a show with, you know, star appeal and that?
Well, speaking personally, I think television is the place that creates stars. And it still is, and it's exciting. And, you know, if you look at the cast of Breaking Bad, Brian was the only well-known actor there, and on Walking Dead, nobody knew who anybody was. And, you know, in that, so you really have an opportunity because you have a long, you know, story form to create stars. So I think television is an especially exciting place. And then you see television, you know, now you see people from the movie world go into television because there's such great writing in the television world and so many different outlets on cable, and you see people from the television world starring in movies. So I think you don't have to be a name to become a television star.
Hi, I'm Johanna Watts, and I know the headshot is the first thing you see. The second thing you're probably going to watch is the reel. And so my question is about reels. Are there things you really don't want to see? And like lengthwise, how long do you actually watch a reel in general? Or how long would you prefer they be? So, you know, I hear conflicting things about montages or, you know, how long a scene should run on. So love to hear your opinion. Thanks.
I was going to say that really long montages don't really get you anywhere. You know what I mean? Just to see 10 minutes of different shots doesn't really get to the work. You don't have time. Like, if you're under such a time crunch all the time, I think just put your best foot forward, put your best piece of work up front as opposed to all the different looks that quick cutting. For me, anyway.
I don't want to see your acting class. You know, I don't want to see a scene from your acting class. I'd like to see as, if it's an audition, then just give me the audition. You know, if it's, just make it as professional looking as possible. Try your best to make it, look at it yourself. And what do you think about it? If you don't care for it, or if you think it should be tweaked, tweak it. Listen to yourself, believe me. Because we'll find it and we'll just go, alright?
Hello, Myron again. Last question. In regards, you mentioned earlier to restrictions on casting. For like hiring locals or flying someone. For an actor who puts on his resume, like take for instance, I have a residence in New York and Atlanta, here in California. But I'm based out here in California. For an actor who puts, you know, on his resume that he can't be hired as a local hire, do you guys look at that, or do you just specifically go to that locality and hire from there?
It's a very tricky question because SAG governs that. So if I know that you're California local, but you have a New York address, I could get in a lot of trouble by SAG if at some point you decide to say, oh, I never said that, or whatever that is. It's a very tricky fine line. It's kind of where you come in for that job, often is how it happens, or it's a really shady area.
I don't want to get in trouble, but the way we try to help actors out is, let's say you want to come into The Walking Dead and you're in LA, we'll let Lisa Mae Finn Cannon know that you're here. We'll put you on tape, but she'll submit it through the local casting. So that way you'll get considered. Or sometimes somebody from Atlanta will be out here and she'll call us and say, will you put that person on tape? The problem is, you can say you'll be local, but then when you hit a thunderstorm and you're 2 days late, you know, it can become problematic. But I do think it will behoove an actor if you want to say, your show shoots in Atlanta, I have residence there.
Or if the date changes and the flight is $2,000, you know, for you to switch it, then it's troublesome too, right?
Believe me, we do like actors. We really do. A lot of people think we don't, but we do. enjoy what we do, and it's because of what we do that we enjoy you guys that much. We go to the movies, we watch TV, we go to theater, we read books, we read all the magazines and all that stuff. We're there to look for actors. New ones, as soon as one's established, you gotta find another one. You gotta find another one, you gotta find another one. What we don't want is unprofessional people. Treat yourselves with the respect that I want to be treated with, okay? It's a business, it's an audition, it's a meeting. Be prepared. I don't want to hear your excuses. I don't want to look at lousy quality tape, but neither do you. You don't want to hear excuses. That's all we ask for, is that respect. But believe me, everybody up here and most of my colleagues in the business like actors.
How many of you are actors?
How many of you are working actors? Very good. Great.
Here, I have a story. As you become more and more successful, take your ego out of it and don't ever say, I'm not going to read for that. Because if Jonathan Banks had said that at the age of 60, after starring in Wise Guys and movies and other series, he wouldn't have an Emmy nomination today. So keep reading.
Okay, you guys only have time for maybe one or two more. Okay, sorry.
Just a quick question. What advice would you give to young directors that working with casting directors, just to help out?
Take an acting class. Understand what an actor has to go through. That 5 minutes of your time is 47 hours of theirs, like the panic in the car, the getting, memorizing the dialogue, the post-mortem panic. And that way you can speak their language and understand that it's not as easy. And if you just say, I'd like you to cry here, why? What are those reasons? Once you think in those terms, you realize it's not as easy as it looks, and it'll help you get the best performance out of everybody.
Hi, my name's Ethan McDowell. I have a question about audition tapes. About a year ago, I submitted something on Breakdown Services, which was just a quick call for an audition tape, kind of a contest. And months went by, and I narrowed it down to the top 16, the top 5, and now I'm here at Comic-Con because I booked the role in this little franchise called Space Command. And
Congratulations.
Oh, yeah, thank you. And I'm just curious as to how normal that is on your guys' standpoint to have this opportunity of these audition tapes, and how do we go about doing that for you guys as well?
Your process was you submitted a tape in a general search, is that what it was?
Yeah.
Okay. We do that kind of all the time. We really kind of do. And that's kind of where we're always on. Our mind, I know, we walk around, we're looking at faces, looking at your face, going, what did you book? What was that? It's that process happens a lot, kind of every day for us. That's what we're doing. But that particular process you had was special to that particular one, and that's where it was. Like my Selena search was a big search for Selena. We can make this big a deal, but usually that's what we do all the time.
And we put out those searches, and we look at old tapes.
Yeah.
Because we put it out if we're not going to look. So we look. If we get 10,000, we look at 10,000.
Absolutely. That's the whole point.
Hi, sorry, just a quick question about casting director workshops. I'm just trying to grow my focus into a lot of them lately because it's hard to get good representation in this town. So people are like, oh, do casting director workshops. How do you guys feel in general about workshops, or do you have any recommendations? Do you think it's a good thing? Or?
You answered that question earlier, but my personal feeling is go to the associate workshops, because I know as a casting director I'm getting pitched to by agents and managers all the time, and as an associate you're not really getting pitched to, and so it's your opportunity as an associate or an assistant to come to the casting director with your ideas. And so I feel like my associates that go to workshops are much more hungry to find strong actors, and will look for good actors and bring them to me and bring them to my attention. In this past pilot season, my associate found an actor at a workshop who we used as a reader on a pilot. We ended up using her like 6 or 7 days a week for free, and she got hired as the lead guest star of that pilot. So, and that's rare, that doesn't happen all the time, don't get too excited, but But I think they're a lot more hungry, and I think a lot of casting directors sometimes do workshops for the money. That's my opinion. It may not be true, and that's just a very, very broad idea. Let's move on.
I have a question, sort of the flip side of what we've been talking about so far tonight is how do independent producers go about looking and finding young, hungry, wannabe casting directors who are trying to make their way in this business?
Good question. We have an organization called the Casting Society of America, and we have associates that are listed there, and casting directors that are listed there, and you can put up your project as searching for a casting director, and we have listings, and they can be checked, and there's a way to get to us. There's also IMDb, just IMDb is.
Hi, first I want to thank all of you for coming out. So I found myself in kind of an uncommon situation. My background is in science. I have a PhD in bioengineering, and I find myself trying to transition into an acting career. And
as one does.
And I'm kind of worried about how much I want to make that known, because I'm not sure if that will be seen as an asset, or if it'll raise red flags, or going to be concerned about my acting ability, things like that. And I'm curious about your perspective on something like that. I'm sure you're going to find other people like me anywhere over here.
You're saying, do you use your biochemistry degree as an asset?
Yeah. Would you, in general, would you see something like that as a benefit, having a fairly extensive educational background, or would that be a concern about just how I'd approach things?
I'd be very impressed if I had an actor in front of me who has a doctorate in biochemistry. I had a heart surgeon who was working in an emergency room who was trying to be an actor in a workshop that I did one time. And I went, what, are you nuts? It's like, it doesn't matter. It's not going to hurt you, and we got a couple interesting questions in your interview.
I don't think it's a red flag. I think especially if there's a lot of technical jargon, you're like, hey, that guy knows this.
Say CSI. Okay. Hi, I'm Sabrina Meng. Nice to meet you guys. My question is actually that I had taken an acting class where the instructor had said that, you should have started decades ago.
I can't hear you.
Oh, is this not on?
It is.
Hello?
Yeah.
Hi. I had taken an acting class, and the instructor had said that I should have started decades ago. So I'm just wondering, would you deter someone who's starting at a later age?
No, you started when you started. If you're, it's your journey, and everybody's going to tell you no somewhere along the line in this career. So it's up to you to make that decision. A lot of people come into different parts of their careers late in life. So just think of it that you're a new face in your age range. How awesome is that?
You're going to try one more question.
Hi, I am not an actor, nor am I in the business. I'm curious, do you see any effect from sort of the new media, web series and other things? Are those affecting your job at all?
Making it a little easier.
They're influencing us. There's some Embrace the Funny or Die has some great things on there. YouTube, they're definitely influencing. Social media is doing something to everybody's life.
It's made it easier to reach a broader audience, and it's also made it easier to, if you're stuck on a roll, to sit there at midnight at home and go like, oh my God, like maybe, maybe.
Facebook and casting directors. It's all part of it.
Okay, they want us to wrap it up.
It's also opened up a lot more opportunities for actors. And I think social media is affecting it that way, that there's more jobs because there's so many different venues to create content.
Okay, we've got to wrap this up. Thank you guys for coming.